Welcome to EVTN News, your source for all the news on YouTube, pretty much. Um, well, there was a breaking news story today that I'm going to talk about first. That is Cardinal Becciu. So remember, Cardinal Angelo Becciu, former prefect of the Congregation for the Cause of the Saints, who resigned from all positions in the context of an alleged financial scandal, has said he will participate in the next consistory on August 29th to 30th. He said he will also participate in the consistory for creating new cardinals on August 27th. That's Saturday. And this is where McElroy gets named a cardinal. So, great. Not really. McElroy and Roach are two least favorite people. Becciu announced the news during a private mass celebrated in Golfo Aranci in his native Sardinia, where he is spending a holiday. If true, the decision appears to have come directly from Pope Francis. That's the key to this. What dirt does Becciu have on Pope Francis? Remember, Becciu resigned because of this shady London property deal. And now that everything went to court, what's going on? I thought that was a really interesting story. And I don't know what's going to come of it. But I will say that consistory is on Saturday. And also, I don't have a link to any articles here. But remember, Cardinal Burke, remember the dubia about Amoris Laetitia that Cardinal Burke and three other cardinals submitted to Pope Francis? Two of those cardinals have since died. Cardinal Burke has not met with Pope Francis since then, which is at least 4 years. I'm not entirely sure when it was, but Cardinal Burke has a chance to meet with Pope Francis this upcoming Saturday, maybe. Or maybe the Vatican will ban him because he is not jabbed. I don't know. A lot of potentially interesting stories. Maybe we'll hear a lot of nothing. Hopefully the Catholic media does their job. That's not always guaranteed, but sometimes they do, and sometimes we find that kind of information. And so lots of stuff coming up. I'll be able to talk about next week, but for now, this is what we got. We got a lot more stuff too. A London court sentenced the Secretariat of State of the Vatican on July 26 to pay 200,000 euros for legal fees to Raphael Mincione, one of the defendants at the Vatican's Sloane Avenue trial. The Secretariat of State had told the London judge that it was a neutral party in the Vatican court case, although it had formed a civil action against all the defendants, and that Mincione's lawsuit was a way to circumvent the sovereignty of the Vatican. Mincione insists there was no scam and everything was authorized by Pope Francis. There you go. That's your shady London property deal. Now, I want to go over to a different story. Jen Morrison writes for The Atlantic and has written articles for America Magazine and the National Catholic Distorter, so you know you're not coming to a good place here. And I called her America Magazine Witch. That's pretty accurate, I think. She posted this tweet. Today is the Catholic feast. This was last week. Today is the Catholic feast of St. Maximilian Kolbe, who gave his life in Auschwitz for a fellow prisoner who had a family. He was starved and finally executed via injection of carbolic acid, and he wouldn't just die. He was a hero. He was also an anti-Semite. Huh. Alright, so apparently if you're Catholic, then you're an anti-Semite. There you go. So that's, I think my title for her is fitting. These people aren't Catholic. They need to stop pretending. Quit it. Go write for your communist, atheist publications. I mean, that's basically what America Magazine is. It's just a fake Catholic publication. They're trying to pretend to be Catholic. They talk about Catholic stuff, and maybe it's just for the rage. Maybe the distorter is for the rage. I mean, the rage clicks, because Catholics don't believe that. I mean, you can't. Another extremist, talking more about extremists. She's also a writer for The Atlantic. and her fellow her publication, her primary publication, is the Atlantic, which is I mentioned it last week, sorry, and I said, yeah, I'm not really that concerned about it. I just wanted to make a note, though. Remember, this was the Rosary article. So the article published last Sunday, not yesterday, but the one before, in the Atlantic magazine suggests the Rosary has become a symbol of violent right-wing extremism in the United States. Well, call it what you will. That's all I have to say about that. I mean, if that's what you want to call it, fine. But basically, everyone's alt left. Then I mean, where's the alt left? And the alt left extremists want to not call a boy or a girl. And if a boy likes I don't know, if he wears a purple shirt, then that means that he actually thinks he's a girl, right? I mean, these people are nuts. They're completely insane and probably demonically possessed in a lot of cases. Um, let's see here. This article set off a frenzy of reactions among Catholics, ranging from amusement to grave concern over what some see as anti-Catholic sentiment. As long as, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just make sure you're able to defend yourself against the communists. So I don't know. I think I was more on the amusement side rather than grave concern, because these people have been at it for. I mean, look, abortion is their sacrament. I shouldn't have said that. That's a buzzword. But think about it. I mean, there are people who are from the religion that. Let me think about this. The Old Testament religion, but not really. You know what I'm talking about? Those people. Yeah, I can't say it, but they said that their religious or the slaughter of the unborn is religious freedom to that group of people. There are people that belong to that group that were posting that. If you get what I'm saying, right? The magazine later changed the article's headline from "How the Rosary Became an Extremist Symbol" to from how the Rosary became an extremist symbol to how extremist gun culture is trying to co-opt the Rosary. Among other edits to the text, an image of bullet holes forming the shape of a rosary was replaced with a picture of a rosary. These editorial changes nonetheless left the article's thesis that there is a connection between the rosary and extremism intact. This is from the Catholic News Agency, by the way. It was good that they were able to have the screenshots before and after. The author's contention was based in part on his observations about the use of the rosary on social media and rosaries sold online. So, spiritual warfare. Oh, I guess spiritual warfare is a myth, right? Come on. I mean, really? You see the world today and think it's a better place than it was before? I mean, come on. That's pathetic. All right. More communism stuff. I don't know the whole context of this, but I'm just going to throw it out there. You can do your own research if you want. At least 16 individuals, including some nuns of the Rural Missionaries of Philippines, have been charged with the alleged crime of financing the New People's Army, the armed wing of the Communist Party of the Philippines, which has been leading an insurgency against the state for decades. The court could issue an arrest warrant. Rural missionaries actually defend the environment and the rights of local indigenous people. So these nuns are defending indigenous people and the environment. Sounds pretty. I mean, communism sounds right up their alley. Okay. So the Institute of Christ the King in Chicago has had a lot of support from different people, especially in the community. The First Presbyterian Church pastor David Black, whose church sits next to the shrine of Christ the King, said in an interview, Cardinal Cupich is basically withholding that key as well as changing the fundamentals of the form of worship as it has existed at the shrine for years, and he is doing this without soliciting any direct input from the people of the congregation. Every time I've been with their congregation, I've just been amazed by, first of all, how much it's growing and how vital it is and how multicultural it is. Kind of interesting. I believe this pastor also marched in one of their processions. Look, if you like them, why not convert? I mean, what's stopping you, Pastor Black? But I see, it's interesting to note his support of this community and his observations. I mean, he's saying, why would Supich try to take this down if it's growing? And I mean, he's saying the same thing as everyone else, right? Another local resident, Heather Malpass, said that the Institute's contribution to the community is much more powerful than the form of the Mass they offer, adding, we really can't imagine our neighborhood without them. So I think, I don't know, I don't agree with that statement unless you said, unless she actually meant the contribution to the community goes beyond the form of the Mass that they offer. Because the form of the Mass that they offer is certainly the most powerful part of their organization, of the Institute. Without the Mass, the holy sacrifice of the Mass, I don't even know what to say. The holy sacrifice of the Mass is so important, and based on one of the books I'm reading, it's hard to describe exactly how powerful it is. They said that all of the Old Testament sacrifices put together pale in comparison to one private Mass offered by a priest. And so the Mass is that important to the future of the world, really. Thank you for joining me on the live stream, everyone. I see I'm hitting a lot of people, so thank you. This is more than a typical EVTN episode. By the way, EVTN News, Eternal Vigano Television Network News. I believe it was created because of one of the heretical publications talked about EWTN and how they should be renamed to EVTN, Eternal Vigano Television Network. And I mean, why not, Why not? I'll take it. Cardinal Ouellette. This was a story that quickly got buried. Canadian media reported Tuesday that Cardinal Mark Ouellette has been accused in a class action lawsuit of inappropriately touching an intern, allegedly kissing her at a 2010 ordination party, and sliding his hand down her back and touching her posterior. The Vatican's handling of the case already, in the 19 months since Pope Francis apparently learned of the allegations, is likely to draw criticism for the pontiff, renewing the frequent charge that Francis does not have a handle on addressing sexual misconduct allegations among bishops. What a shock. And then, the Vatican will not pursue the investigation of Ouellette. Regarding the allegations of recent days reported in the press concerning Eminence Cardinal Mark Ouellette, the director of the Holy See Press Office, Matteo Bruni, states that having completed the preliminary investigation entrusted by the Pope to Father Jacques Servais, the conclusion of which there are no elements to initiate a trial against Cardinal Ouellette for sexual assault. I read the statement Thursday, and I believe that this priest who investigated Ouellette was a good friend of his. How convenient. I don't know if he's guilty or not. I don't know. It could be like another Cardinal Pell type of thing. Cardinal Ouellette has been very accommodating towards the Francis Church, so I don't see why Francis would want to get rid of him. In fact, Cardinal Ouellette is several years older than the required retirement age for the Vatican, for a cardinal to work in the Vatican, and so I don't see why they want to get rid of him this way. Francis could just replace him any day he wants. So that, I don't know. Maybe the allegation is real. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I don't know that it's really going to have an impact on much. On Monday, the Swiss Bishops' Conference published a document for the upcoming Synod on Synodality in Rome, reporting the Catholic Church was seen as suffering from clericalism, as well as denying equality to women and excluding people with LMNOP identity. Several official church positions, here's what they said. Several official church positions on the role of women in the church and society, on sexuality and lifestyles, are perceived as pejorative and exclusionary. Yeah, exactly. I mean, why wouldn't you want that? It's not it's an exclusive church, not an inclusive church. I mean, how many times do you have to say that? So Switzerland is the Swiss bishops. I mean, whoever runs the Swiss bishops conference is completely compromised, and it looks like several other countries are as well. The bishops from several other countries, Australia, no surprise, New Zealand, and Ireland. Um, Several common themes emerge from these places on the synod. Among other points mentioned, the Irish synthesis said there it was a clear, overwhelming call for full inclusion of LMNOP people in the church, expressed by all ages and particularly by the young and by members of the LMNOP community themselves. Oh wow, what a surprise. The LMNOP community wants to force herself into a lot of different places. Great. Okay, but what about Catholics? A report from the New Zealand Catholic Bishops' Conference said, it hurts to see family members and friends leaving the church because they feel they are unacceptable because of gender issues, being divorced and remarried, or in an LMNOP relationship. Some participants, including young people, expressed deep personal hurt caused by the perception of being excluded because of their sexual identity or that of a friend or family member. All right, so if these people were actually permitted in the church, would they actually come back? Would they, or if they were members of the church and then the church changes doctrines, which wouldn't happen, would they still stay in the church? Would they conform their lifestyles to the Catholic faith? I mean, isn't that what we're supposed to do? Isn't that what the church is supposed to do? Is call people to conversion and to live a life of virtue? I mean, isn't that like an ideal? Isn't that what you're supposed to try to do? Australians. Oh, the bishops are so bad in Australia. They too commented on the need for inclusion, although the national report noted that the nature of consultations through surveys and group discussions generally favors respondents who are well educated, more affluent members of the church, and those who are keen to make their opinions known. The synthesis says there is a particular sense of that synodality is about welcoming and including all, particularly those on the fringes of the church and in the margin of society. Shocker. Such groups include Indigenous Australians, migrants and refugees, women, those of different sexual orientations, and the poor and vulnerable. In some instances, the church was seen as placing barriers of exclusion by its teachings and the application of those teachings. On the other hand, some called for the church to be more compassionate while remaining authentic to its teachings. So, okay, marginalized groups. So are you asking Catholics? Or are you asking non-Catholics about how the church can welcome them? Because what does it mean? Will these Indigenous Australians convert to the Catholic faith? Do they have any interest in converting to the Catholic faith? What about these migrants and refugees, these women, these people of different sexual orientations, and the poor and vulnerable? Do they have any interest in converting to the Catholic faith? Or are you going to try to change your teaching to say, oh, we're so inclusive, but then none of them are going to convert? So what's the point? You're going to change your teachings because you want to satisfy your own lifestyle choices. All right, going to Arlington. Bishop Michael Burbidge offered additional thoughts on the recent guidelines he issued restricting the Latin Mass in the Diocese of Arlington, Virginia. He said, I think we accomplished our goals of showing fidelity to the Holy Father, to the Holy See, and we're also mindful that we are still providing the celebration of this Mass throughout our diocese. He said this on the Diocese's Walk Humbly podcast on August 10th. Oh, obedience, blind obedience. Pope Francis, we know that the Latin Mass community is growing, but we humbly, obediently submit to your restrictions of this superior form of worship. Anyway, Bishop Burbage offered a respectful challenge as a spiritual father and said there are two different paths that can be followed when change occurs that one disagrees with. Well, I'll tell you one thing. He patted himself on the back, didn't he, there? He said, I think we accomplished our goals. What are your goals? Drive the Catholics out of your diocese? All right, so anyway, here's his respectful challenge. He said there's two different paths. One is that of anger and writing or calling or emailing without really thinking of the weight of the words that become somewhat hurtful not only to me but to my staff who had to read such a tone. So he's saying, don't email him and don't complain. You angry traditionalists, you deserve everything you get, and we're going to restrict your masses, and you should be thanking me for restricting your mass. You should be thanking me for banishing you from a church to a gym. The other path, he said, is to say, wow, the Lord is giving me an opportunity to grow in holiness because I am letting go of my will here. I'm trusting that the Lord is at work in his church and that the Holy Spirit is guiding his church. It's not what I would do if I was the Pope. It's not what I would do if I was the bishop, but I'm a faithful follower of Christ and I trust he is always acting through the church. Yikes. The other path is basically a logical, what would you call it? A logical distortion. Basically, it's not true. All right, so he pats himself on the back and then he calls out the people who sent him angry letters for restricting their mass, restricting their rights as a Catholic. Is it our right to have the all right sacraments? I believe so. Speaking of the old mass, on May 7th, Pope Francis appointed Father Tate Cameron Schroeder as a head of office in the Disciplinary section of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Schroeder had earned a doctorate in canon law at the Opus Dei University in Rome and went on to serve as pastor and judicial vicar in Madison Diocese, Wisconsin. And so Opus Dei gets him the connections, run right up the ladder. But it turned out, however, he had committed the unpardonable sin. The Washington nuncio, I believe that's still Christophe Pierre, he alerted the Holy See a few days after Schroeder's appointment that Schroeder had occasionally celebrated the Latin Mass for groups of pilgrims in Rome. Not consistently, just occasionally. After this revelation, Schroeder was fired, or he had to resign, whatever you want to consider it. There you go. If you want to work in the Vatican, guess what? You can't be Catholic. Or at least you can't say the Catholic Mass, or the Mass of the Roman Rite. The sole expression of the Roman Rite. Going over, are you guys fans of Church Militant? Well, they've been having a dispute with Mike from Restoring the Faith Media. Mike recently tweeted, as a precondition of the settlement, him and Church Militant are in a big legal fight, and they just want a settlement. Well, Mike just wants a settlement, maybe. He said, as a precondition of the settlement, Church Militant is officially demanding that I unseal where and with whom I go to confession. Really? That's pretty unbelievable. Why would Church Militant want this information? Why is it any of their business? You know, they're not even they're not even part of any kind of Catholic organization. Mike said, imagine paying $100,000 in donor money to try to obtain this information from a small competitor. You donate to Church Militant, your money is going to fight traditionalists. That's all I'll say on that. Nicaragua bishop was arrested. Nicaraguan police forced their way into the residence of Bishop Rolando Alvarez Friday morning and abducted the prelate, an outspoken critic of the regime of President Daniel Ortega, who had been held there under house arrest for the last 2 weeks. Alvarez, the bishop of the Diocese of Mantegalpa, and several priests, seminarians, and laymen were forcibly confined to the chancery on August 4th and have been prohibited from receiving food and medicine. And it seems as though President Ortega is part of a communist regime, and so no surprise, they have to crack down on Catholics, and that is why we need to fight communism. Really, no exceptions. There's nothing more to really be said about that. We need to oppose communism as much as we can too. Not just like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm John the Son of Thunder, I oppose communism. No, like we have to fight against it when we see it, and that's happening in the LMNOP culture, cancel culture, of course, pronouns, different things like that. That's definitely part of the communist agenda. The infiltration of the communist thought into the Catholic Church. Yes, we need to oppose that as well, as much as we can. All right, and speaking of communism, Chinese Catholics gathered for a communist propaganda meeting. So Catholic bishops, priests, and religious from across China have started a state-sponsored once in 5 years national conference in the presence of the Chinese Communist Party officials, stressing the importance of adhering to government policies on religious affairs and strengthening patriotism. The 10th National Congress of Catholicism in China began in Wuhan, the capital of Hubei province in central China, on August 18th, says a notice on the website of state-run Bishops' Conference of the Catholic Church in China. Some 345 Catholic bishops, priests, and I believe religious, representing 28 provinces, autonomous regions, and municipalities are attending the 3-day assembly. So this is a communist propaganda meeting of Chinese fake Catholics, and that's pathetic. Really, it is pathetic. Okay, thank you for joining, everyone. The Atlantic is doing what the Nazis started with the J's, vilify and then nullify. Okay, he has no authority to fire a priest for saying the Mass of the Ages. There is nothing in the job description that gives him that authority. After he came back from Canada apologizing, hello everyone. Oh, I see what you said there, Adrian. Thanks for joining. The Archbishop said that the Indult priests, FSSP, are doing the devil's work. Hold on, which Archbishop? Which Archbishop are you talking about? I don't know. Anyway, the Indult priests. One cannot both shake hands with the modernists. Oh, Archbishop Lefebvre. The one cannot both shake hands with modernists and keep following tradition. Okay. Ooh. Let's see here. Can I go back here? Okay. They never include albinos in these minorities. Okay. That's a ridiculous request of church militant. All right, that's the commenter. Where will McCarrick be going? Going to the communist. Oh well, I don't think he's allowed to. I don't think. I think health prevents McCarrick from traveling. So I don't think so. But they might be able to get him in on a Zoom call. Which archbishop said that, Logan? I believe it's Archbishop Lefebvre said that. The indult priests are doing the devil's work. Archbishop Lefebvre probably said that. And you know, I mean, to be honest, the FSSP is going to face, the FSSP and Institute are facing some decisions. And eventually they're going to be pressured to make a final decision. And we'll see what they do. Will they cave and just say the new Mass? Or will they continue to say the old Mass and get suspended, excommunicated, whatever? And they're, you know, as long as times are good, then, you know, they're fine. But whenever the going gets rough, then we'll see what happens. That's just a time whenever it could be a problem. The FSSP will not give in. It is in their charter to do only the TLM. Yeah, it is. And really, I see them, if they face pressure to shut down their parishes, then I could see them all just going back to Lincoln, Nebraska and celebrating the Latin Mass there. They all just go back to the seminary and just kind of hang out there. Now the problem is they need a bishop, I mean, weren't they promised a bishop by the Vatican 30 years ago? And what happened? They don't have a bishop. And there are plenty of traditional bishops who are sympathetic towards tradition, but we have a very big chapel. It's standing room only at High Mass. Well, they'll have to build one. I mean, plenty of people are willing to donate money. Look at what happened at the Institute, and now people have to donate money somewhere else. So there'll be as long as people are as long as diocesan Latin masses are getting shut down, or even Institute and fraternity parishes are getting shut down, then people will have extra money to give somewhere else. And what are they going to do with that? Got to jump on that, right? SSPX, get on that. They're doing a podcast series, and I hope they continue it. They did the Sacrament series. That was pretty interesting. And I hope they continue. I hope they come up with something else. I don't know what kind of series will be next. I'd really love to see them talk about like theological perspectives. It might be a little hard for me to absorb when I'm riding in the car because I listen to this stuff in the car. That's how I find time to listen to this stuff. I don't know how you guys find time to watch me. I really appreciate your views on this channel. My family is from NB. What's NB? NB. Anyway. Unfortunately, they don't have the money to build a new church. Oh, but they could. They very easily could. Eventually. And I think there's... No, Nebraska. Oh, sorry. I don't know these terms. I'm from Pennsylvania. I've been through Nebraska once. Nice state. Not a lot of farms. A lot of farms. And there's Lincoln and Omaha. Omaha's right on the border. There were more hills and trees than I expected. I guess I'm not really that cultured, but yeah. All right, well, the chapel is beautiful and they have enough room for the low mass, but the high mass is so popular it's standing room only. Yeah, that would be difficult. Maybe add more masses. That'd be helpful, I guess. It's tough to expand like a church that's already in place. It's tough to like tear it down and build up new stuff. I don't know, but I mean, people have to work on that. Got to figure it out. Okay, well, this has been EVTN News. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we are the laity, and we will not be silent.